Welcome to Smart Brown Voices, your weekly podcast featuring diverse voices from around the world, giving you insights on how others made it big in their respective fields. Now sit back, grab a notebook, and get ready to be inspired. And don't forget to use hashtag #SmartBrownVoices to share insights, moments of wisdom, and things from the show that inspire you. And now, here's your host, social media nerd and technology activist, Mr. Mike Street.
Hey everybody, it's Mike Street, and I'm trying out this Meerkat stuff because everybody at South by was on the Meerkat. So I'm just going to give it a whirl and record my podcast since I haven't recorded a podcast in 2 weeks. I know everyone's wondering what the fuck happened. So, hey, welcome to another edition of Smart Brown Voices. And I'm sitting in my living room in Harlem. Just got back from South by Southwest, and I had to go to the gym and work out for like 20 hours just to work off the weight that I gained from eating at South by Southwest and having all that barbecue and tacos and everything else. But I got to say, Austin has some really delicious motherfucking food. We actually took a road trip from Austin out to Lockhart, Texas, which is literally the middle of nowhere. I mean, it was like a 45-minute drive from downtown Austin out to Lockhart to have some barbecue. So we decided to go to try out the 3 famous places that we saw on the internet. So one was called Smitty's, one was called Black's, and the other one was called Cruise Market or something like that. So the first one we hit was Cruise Market, and we got like, I forgot what we got there, but we got a lot of it. And it was okay. We got like sausage. That was good. And then we got some sides from there. The sides were okay. And then we got some of their, I think it was either pulled pork or pork shoulder or something like that. It was something that we wanted, but they were sold out of it. So we decided just to try that. And it was pretty tasty. The sausage was probably the best thing at the cruise market. And so what we decided to do is that we would just get like the specialty item at each of the locations. And then we would, hit it off to the next one. And they're really not that far away from each other. So, like Cruise Market is, they're all maybe like 5 minutes away from each other. So we decided to, try to test them out. So Cruise Market was okay. It was pretty packed when we got in there. It looks like the place where people go, to have like Sunday dinner because we went on a Sunday road trip. And that was good. I think I spent like $50 in there on barbecue. So, if you go to Austin and you want something fun to do, like definitely try it out and, go on that road trip. So then we went to Black's. And let me tell you, oh my God, Black's was killing it to the highest degree. Like, I was just like, had my face just like in the trough of food going like this, like, and we had like pecan cobbler, and oh my God, it was so fucking good. Like, I cannot tell you, like, I really wanted to just buy the whole tray of pecan cobbler from there and just take it with me back on the plane when I got back to New York because it was fucking delicious. We got ribs from there. Those are probably the best ribs I ever had in my life. We also got brisket from there. It's probably the best brisket I ever tasted in my life. We also got sausage. They had jalapeno cheddar cheese sausage, which was the best sausage I ever had. So, yeah, Black's is definitely the place you got to go. There was a little bit of a wait because there was a line when we got there. But I had originally tried to go to Franklin's because when I first came to Austin many, many years ago, Franklin's was where I went. And their barbecue was pretty tasty, but when I got in line, they told me, and I got in line at 10 o'clock. And so they said that I wouldn't get any barbecue until probably 2:30. And so I was like, oh, okay, I'm not going to wait in line for the Franklin's barbecue, which, again, Franklin's is delicious, but it just wasn't worth it to really stand outside for 5 hours to get some barbecue. So that's when we kind of all decided we would just rent a car and do the road trip and get the barbecue. So it was definitely worth the money. And then so our last stop on our road trip, because pretty much after we ate at Black's, we were all pretty stuffed. So we decided that we would go hit up the last place, which was Smitty's. And so Smitty's was pretty good. Again, it was kind of a wait because there was a lot of people inside getting like Sunday dinner. We wanted to get ribs from there also, but they didn't have any. They had sold out. So we got brisket and some pork shoulder from there. And it was okay. It wasn't as good as Black's. I think we were stuffed by that point, and we just couldn't eat anymore. But the other thing that we got from there that was pretty delicious was cherry ice cream. So it has like real cherries in it, and it's like cherry vanilla ice cream, and that was pretty good. And we munched that up, and then we hit it back to Austin. So that's my food stories from my Austin travels. I ate a lot of tacos on the street. There's some taco truck I discovered that's on the street of Austin, and they sell like the best pork tacos that I ever had. And you'll hear me say a lot of like the best food I've ever had was in Austin on this trip because I was literally like out drunk as hell every day. And I probably started drinking at, 10, 11 in the day, and then, pretty much went all day till 2 in the morning every day while I was out there. Because all my friends decided to come on this trip, and, it was hard for me to, like, really get a lot of work done because we pretty much went to every party that we could find. So let me tell you about the day. So day one, was I flew in on Thursday. Threw our bags down and pretty much hit the streets right after that. So I took my friend Tyrone with me. This was his first time in Austin, so I had to immediately take him over to Dirty Six so that he could, see all the different bars and stuff like that. So we also came with my friend Karen Travieso, who is the VP of Marketing for Turner Broadcasting. So she was hanging with us, and also her husband decided to come out with us as well. So I had booked them both on the same flight. So they were all out there first, and then I flew in, and then Karen flew in. So they were already out and about. They had already been having some drinks, and then we went to hit up like one of my favorite Mexican spots in Austin, which was pretty good. The food there, standard Mexican fare. I probably ate there like twice while I was there. So then I took them over to Dirty Six. We walked around the bars. And we probably stayed out, pretty much every night until 2, 3 in the morning. And my feet were like killing me like every day. So our first day, we pretty much was just like a party day. There wasn't many parties going on, so we really just kind of hit the bars. It was also Andre's birthday, so we picked a couple of bars and just, drank ourselves silly and then went to sleep. So then Friday was the day of my panel that I did, which is at 2:00. So I was honored to have April Walker, who we had on our show during Fashion Week, and she was talking about her, building her brand. And then we also had Jeff Callaghan, who's the founder, CEO of Coldback Entertainment, and so both of them are on my panel. And so my panel was about mentorship. And, really allowing our audience for Movement 50 and everything that we do in terms of diversity programming at South by Southwest to kind of get a chance to sit down and speak with two people who have built, multi-million-dollar companies. So if you're not familiar with Jeff Callaghan, he, again, like I say, he's the founder, CEO of Coldback Entertainment. So basically, Coldback is, they do a lot of direct to DVD movies which feature African American talent. Probably their biggest hit to date is the Kevin Hart specials that movies that have been breaking records at the box office. So he's responsible for a lot of that, and it was really interesting to hear him talk about social media because actually he manages a lot of talent's social media accounts. So he's actually does some stuff with Kevin Hart. Kevin does do a lot of his own stuff, but he also manages, people like Kelly Rowland and manages her social media. So, it was really cool to hear him talk about like managing artists, and in particular managing people like Kelly Rowland and talking a lot about engagement and getting, your audience to interact with you so that it helps your overall bottom line and your ticket sales. And so that's a lot of what he does with the Coldback. But, again, it's a company that has earned and created tons of different stars and really has crafted, a really interesting multi-million-dollar business, and a really unique one, especially since it focuses on producing content for a diverse audience. And they also have a really unique partnership with Lionsgate. So they do all of their distribution out of there. And, it's just really exciting to see, them having developed a business over 15 years and turning it into what it is and making it, super successful. And then April Walker, she's the founder and creator of Walker Wear. And if you're not familiar with Walker Wear, it's one of probably the first original hip hop brands to come out. So she launched her brand, I want to say, was it 85 or 86? But, iconic people like Mike Tyson, Tupac, Biggie, she created their first original look for Aaliyah, have all worn Walker Wear, and the brand still exists today. And, and April's helped build other, multi-million-dollar companies. So it's exciting to, have all of those people on the panel and have everyone who attended to get their questions answered, because I really wanted it to be more of a Q&A session, because how you sit into these panels, I'll raise my hand and confess that I am super tired of panels. I can't really take them anymore, and half the time I feel like my questions don't get answered because they talk too much during the panel, and then by the time you get to the Q&A portion, everybody has questions, and and some people, like, when they ask a question, they take too long and they want to tell their whole life story before they actually get to the question. So people could take 5-6 minutes to ask a question, and then the panelist has to answer it. So I'm over panels, and so what I really wanted to do is to have more of a Q&A type session where again, the attendees could kind of come and talk and get their questions answered, because there was a lot of people in there who were trying to figure out their social media strategy, or trying to figure out, if I'm a brand, how do I expand and how do I scale? So it was really actually a really good session, and actually the attendees actually asked a lot of good questions. So we were able to get a lot of good content and a lot of good info out of it. And there is video of it. So once I get a hold of the video, I'll post it to the Smart Brown Voices YouTube channel, which is launching soon. I'm actually trying to set up some more video interviews this week now that I'm back in New York, and I'm ready to rock and roll for the summer and spring. I was just talking to John Henry, who's the founder of Co-Found Harlem, about setting up a video interview with him this week, so that I can get him on, to be one of the first interviews on it, to really talk about what he's doing with Co-Found Harlem. But back to South by. So if you guys aren't super familiar with what we do at Movement 50, I'll give you a quick rundown. So this year, I've been working with Movement 50 for the past 3 years. It's ran by Donnell Treach, who, he's the founder of Griot Media, and he lives in the Austin area. And so he has the relationship with South by Southwest. And so he brought me on to help with marketing, all social media, and then also with sponsorship. So this year I actually served at the sponsorship chair, which is pretty different for me, because, I usually am the person that's actually out there tweeting and, trying to cover the event. But this year I actually was the person responsible for raising all of the money that we use to put on all of the different events. Like, I don't do the logistics part, so that's up to, the Donnell and his logistics team to put everything together. But I go out there and I build the relationships, with the brands, and then get them to sign, give us the cash to, put on our events. So this year we produced, about 12 panels, which were housed in the Austin Convention Center. And then we also did a welcome reception, which we do at the Carver Center in Austin every year. And that always gets a lot of people. Something new that we added this year was a career portion. So we had VaynerMedia, Google, and EA, and one other company, which I can't remember right now, but they all had tables. And, they were talking about the different career opportunities that were available at their companies. So that was a good experience for us, and people were able to ask recruiting questions, and it was just something different, trying something new to kind of expand the overall footprint of what we do. And then so at the welcome reception, we also give out awards, the Innovator Awards. So if you go to movement50.com, it's mvmt50.com. You can see like recaps of everything that we did over the weekend. And if you look up the hashtag, movement50, mvmt50, you'll be able to follow the tweets and Instagrams as well. So that was kind of like Friday. And then Friday was also, I went to another party, but I can't remember what it was. So one of the things that is always fun is hanging out on Dirty Six, because that's where like all the drunk people are. And it's just funny to like stand, especially during South by when it's jam packed and crazy. It's just funny to stand and see, people like how fucked up they get. And walking down the streets, like, everyone's tipsy. And it's amazing how like a lot of these girls stay balanced and are teeter-tottering all over the place because, they've had too many gin and tonics. So if you haven't been to Austin, make sure that's something that you go check out. One of the things that I got to check out this year was more of the east side, which is kind of under the bridge, and go to some of the cool clubs over there. So one of my friends who lives in Austin took us to like this little jazz speakeasy. And so there was a really cool band that was playing like jazz music, and we got to experience that and have some really delicious craft cocktails. And being for me that, I'm old, I'm going to be 40 this year. Sometimes it's like too much going on. It's like, going to South by is like sensory overload. It's just like, people are marketing to you left and right, and then it's loud and, it's crazy. It's too much food. And sometimes you just need a break. So checking out that jazz lounge was, pretty cool. And if you go to my Instagram, it's at some Mr. Mike Street. You can see like some of my pictures from Austin, and there's actually a picture from the jazz club in there. So if you're in Austin, you can go check it out. So we went from there, and then we kind of all were tired, and we went to bed. And then so Saturday was my friend's Karen Travieso's panel, which was the which is really about technology, the tech movement in particular, but then also like the lack of diversity in tech, but then also like how do we kind of move forward. So that was a really well attended panel. I think like 30 or 40 people showed up, and so it was Karen Travieso, Lynn Johnson, who's another one of my homegirls in the tech community, and it was hosted by Tanika Battle. And there was one other guy on the panel, but he was from he writes for Yahoo Music, but I cannot remember his name right now. So sorry to you guys. I'll remember it next time. It's hard trying to hold the iPad and do Meerkat and actually record your podcast at the same time. But hey, we're going to work it out because we got to use new technology. And I'm going to talk about Meerkat more later in this podcast, because it's really interesting what was going on down in Austin during South by Interactive with Meerkat. But anyway, so their panel was really good. I think one of the consensus that we walked away with from the panel is that there needs to just be a better communication pipeline from East Coast to West Coast, and people really need to be able to broadcast more where the jobs are. We have a lot of qualified, diverse talent in our community, but unfortunate that they don't always have the connections to get some of these jobs that are in the tech space. And I know like pretty much every company is hiring for something. And also pretty much all the jobs that are in tech are not tech related. You don't always have to know how to code. So some of the insights that came out of that panel were, I think we kind of all agreed that there was more of a need for adult education as well. Like there's tons of awesome programs out there that are teaching our kids, about coding and how to code. But a lot of those kids aren't going to enter the workforce until maybe another 10 years. And there's a pool and there's an adult community out there that needs training, and they need quick training, something that can take them to get the basic skills down in 3 to 6 months that would be attractive to employers, and be able to get some of those underemployed or unemployed people back into paying positions. So I think that was for me one of the most intriguing ideas was really like, can there be a pipeline for adults to learn how to code and get back into the workforce pretty quickly. And then Another consensus was really, just about, resources sharing from, East Coast to West Coast, making sure that, all the organizations are supported. If, one person is having a conference, making sure that all of the other organizations out there that are focused on or have a mission of diversity are sharing, their information across the board. And so, that's another kind of key takeaway. So, I'm going to bring on Karen Trevieso, who was actually on that panel, and I would love her, and so we're going to go a bit more in depth on what, they were actually talking about on the panel, because she has a lot of great insights into why we are in the current situation of, again, still facing really low diversity numbers at a lot of these tech companies. So after that, we pretty much hit it out to the streets. There was party. So we went first to, Movement 50 had an innovators dinner and also a networking mixer. And so we did that in partnership with WeDC. So let me give a shout out. So for everybody who's watching on Meerkat right now, this is the WeDC t-shirt that they gave out. And I'm from the D.C., Maryland area. And if you are from Maryland, you hear that I say Merlin instead of Maryland, because that's just, the area accent. So we hosted that in partnership with the WeDC House. And I'm going to talk more about the WeDC House in a second. So the Innovators Mixer and Dinner was a way for us to get a lot of the VCs and founders and, really just all the important people in one room at the same time to sit down and break bread. And, so people from Atlanta who may not know people on the West Coast or who may not know other people on the East Coast, so that we can, talk together and get the resources going. So again, one of, my goals and key things that I'm really trying to focus on and tackle this year is really just, getting a pipeline of communication, going out there for all of these organizations, because like for me, I don't have like an ulterior motive with this. I'm not trying to, get rich by coming into the tech space. I've been in this space forever, working from a marketing capacity. And the reason why I started this podcast is because, there's not enough visibility on, everyone out here who is doing amazing work. Like we had pretty much everybody was in that room on Saturday night. We had Troy Carter. He used to work with Lady Gaga, so he's big on the on the West Coast. We had Hank Williams from Platform Summit. He's a serial entrepreneur who's had multiple millions of dollars in his various different exit rounds. We had Michael Sabel, who's also sold several companies, and is now an advisor at Y Combinator. We had a tech influencer, Wayne Sutton was there. We had Rodney Sampson from Opportunity Hub, who's a Black angel investor. We had Erin, who actually runs WeDC, so she's down on that team as well. And so we had, tons of different people out, at the influencers dinner. And again, just to get them to break bread and sit down and, really chat and really just build relationships and start these conversations. Because there's a lot of us out here doing work, but we may not know each other, offline. We may know each other from a tweet or a Facebook post, but I think it's also important to be able to put names with faces and to communicate with each other. So that was really successful for us. The room was packed. And people stayed, and it was pretty exciting. So we're definitely doing that one again next year. So people who want to, so brands out there who are listening to the podcast or watching me now on Meerkat, get your checks ready, because you'll definitely want to, co-sign off of that one. So we definitely want to thank WeDC for being a sponsor for that one. Some other sponsor shout outs that I'm going to do real quick for everything I did down in South by Southwest was we wanted to send a huge thank you to PayPal for sponsoring the Youth Hackathon. Now, the Youth Hackathon was like a mind-blowing, amazing, like people were crying because it was so good experience. And I'm going to tweet out some of the press coverage a little right after I finish recording this so that you guys can see some of the just amazing things people were saying about it. But it was just really exciting to see the kids in Austin, like using their talents and creating, really creating apps for social change. I really feel like if we're going to get in business, let's solve problems. And these kids were tackling heavy issues and using their tech skills and talents to really solve some heavy problems. Like one of the apps that was, created was an app to help you track your sexual partners. Mind-blowing app, could be something that, healthcare companies underwrite and provide. And, there's actually been inquiries from other places with actual, money checks involved where people are really interested in what the kids in the room were doing and looking to actually fund, some of the projects that came out of the hackathon. So I'm going to bring onto the podcast the amazing woman who helped to organize and make everything so fantastic. Her name is Amber. Oh, sorry. Her name is not Amber. It's Autumn's. Sorry. So I'm going to bring onto the podcast the amazing woman, Autumn, who helped put it together and just made it an amazing experience. So we got to, say a big thank you to PayPal for sponsoring that. And then also a big thank you to EA Games. EA Games set up a interactive video game lounge where the kids could kind of take breaks and play some of EA Games titles. So big thank you to EA. Thanks Andre and all of your team at EA, for coming in and supporting, the hackathon. It was, again, an amazing experience. So one of the other things that went on Saturday night, because there was tons of stuff going on at the same time, was the Samsung party, which my friend Mary Pryor, she did a lot of the organization of it. And then also Laura and Sarah from the New York-based marketing agency, Digital Flash. And if you go one episode back, you'll be able to hear an interview that I did with Laura about her, being a female in the marketing space. So that party was packed. Like, they had to shut the door down. People were outside salty because they couldn't get in. So one of my advice tips for you, if you're going to go to South by Southwest, and I tell you that a party starts at a certain time and you should be there when I get there, be there when I get there. Because if you don't, then you're not going to get into the party. Because, again, like a lot of the spaces in Austin, like, some of them are not that big. And once it gets to capacity, they shut the door. They're not going to squeeze somebody else up in there just so you can get into the party and dance. So the party had Erykah Badu, she sang, and Chef Roble, provided the midnight brunch. So that was an amazing party. So shout out to Mary Pryor and Laura and Sarah from Digital Flash. They always do amazing work. So always hire Digital Flash if you want a good activation at South by. I stayed there for like an hour because actually my partner was outside and he couldn't get in. And so I was like, I told you to get here early. And, he got there like 2 hours later after I called him. So I was like, fine, we're going to go over to Catherine Finney's Digital Undivided party. So for me, that was probably one of the funnest parties of pretty much my whole South by. Everybody there was cool, chilled, relaxed. Everybody was having a good time. We were doing the Soul Train line. We twerked. The party was hosted at a place called the Russian Room or something to that effect. And they have these infused vodkas there. So I was drinking like a black currant vodka, and it, needless to say, is as delicious as it sounds. So when I go back to Austin, I'll definitely be going to that place because everything in there was pretty much amazing. Like I even had cilantro vodka. Needless to say, it is also as tasty as it sounds. So their party was super fun. That was sponsored by Pandora. So shout outs to Pandora and shout outs to the whole, Digital Undivided team. So shout out to Darlene, Catherine Finney, Demetria, and everybody who makes everything that the, Digital Undivided team does awesome. So we closed out the night with the Digital Undivided party and then we headed to bed. Then Sunday, that's when we did our barbecue run, and then we came back and went to the Funny or Die party. Now, my friend works at Turner, and Funny or Die is one of their properties, so, she gave us a hookup so we can get in, and Will Ferrell and Kevin Hart were there promoting their new movie. The party was cool, tons of drinks, and really good drinks also. It was at the Belmont, which is a really nice spot, and they do tons of parties there. every South by. So if you're out there, you'll probably go to something there at some point. So the only issue I had with that party is that they put on all these comedians and turned off the music, and the comedians literally talked for 2 hours, and so it kind of killed your mood. Like, you want to be out and dance, and you have all these more mediocrely funny comedians talking for 2 hours, and so that kind of like killed it for me, and I was like ready to go at that point. That party was cool nonetheless. It was cool to see Kevin Hart up close and see Will Ferrell. They're funny as always. And then after that, we kind of just went to some local bars in Austin. Just check out some more of the local flavor, walked around and chilled out. So then Monday, my Monday was, pretty low key. I stayed, in the room so I could actually sleep a little bit longer. A lot of people hit out of South by Southwest on Monday, so it was a little bit slower that day. So the only party I went to was the We DC party. And let me tell you that We DC, first of all, they killed it over the weekend. Like, the We DC house was always packed. They had like pretty much the best food, hands down. And I'm not biased because I'm, from the DC, Maryland area. But, everything I had when I went there was awesome. Like, they had these amazing cheeseburgers that I had, which was good. They had they had brunch on Sunday. So we had mimosas, and the mimosas were strong and delicious. And they had this smoked salmon hash, which was amazing. They had this crab meat hash, which was also amazing. So pretty much like everything that happened at the We DC house was brilliant. The best thing, though, was this discovering this new DC band that I had never heard of before called Black Alley. Needless to say, like, they really killed it. They're kind of a rock band, like a black rock band, but it was like really good to hear them perform. I followed them all across social media so I could listen to their music again. But you got to check out Black Alley. I'm going to play some of their music at the end of the podcast so you can hear, just some of the stuff that they are, jamming to. And so we stayed at the We DC party until it closed. And then I went to bed because I had a 4 a.m. flight back to New York City. So that was my Austin experience. Let me see some honorable mentions and some other cool stuff that I enjoyed. One, I had Gus's fried chicken for the first time, so that was pretty delicious. Let's see what else. The PayPal Lounge inside of the convention center was always packed and popping, and I met a lot of cool people in there. And that's actually how I discovered that people were using Meerkat at South by Southwest. Some guy was watching, and I actually follow him on Twitter, but he was pretty much going around the room in the PayPal Lounge, pretty much interviewing everybody on Meerkat. Like, he had like a little mic set up, so he had his iPad set up, and he would just talk and grab people and put them on his Meerkat stream. And so he had like over 200 people following him throughout the day and watching his stream. So that was pretty interesting. And so I was like, well, I'm going to record all my podcasts live when they're happening on Meerkat so that people can kind of get a feel for what I'm trying to do with Smart Brown Voices. So a big shout out to my homie Jaden, who lives out in Austin. He's always cool whenever I come out there. He always is a good person to be a tour guide. So thank you for your hospitality. Shout out to my homie Richard, who I've known for 17 years, who now lives in Austin. It was good to hang out with him and catch up, and because I hadn't seen him in a long time. So it was good to hang out and to see everybody. So that's why I love South by, because it's pretty much like everybody who I don't get to see throughout the year, like they're all there in one location, and it's it's a good time. So make sure that if you're going to want to go next year, that you book your hotel in August. Don't wait until the last minute. Like, get your badge early, and then book your hotel. And I booked my hotel through the South by Southwest thing. So that made it, much more easier for me to find good accommodations. Because last year I had to stay out in a hotel that was like 2.5 miles away. So I was at the mercy of cabs. And I probably spent like $300 in cabs last South by. But this year I was only 9 blocks away. So that was perfect because one, it gave me a lot of good exercise because there's a lot of fucking hills in Austin. So going back up and down that hill was a lot of good exercise to, work off some of that food. And then also I didn't have to spend $300 in cabs. I could just, walk back and forth from the convention center. All right. So thanks, guys, for listening to this live Meerkat edition of Smart Brown Voices. That was my South by experience. So I'll post more. I'm going to bring on some of the speakers from South by because the reason why I hadn't posted a podcast in 2 weeks is because my computer died and I had to send it back to Apple to get it fixed. So I was kind of down and couldn't, do any podcasting. But now I'm back. I got the portable all set up. So, if something happens, I can just record it on here and stick it online. And then we're going to launching the video stuff. So hopefully once I get, my first video stuff booked, which I'm working on getting Karen Travieso from Turner Broadcasting, and then also John Henry, who's the co-founder Harlem. They're going to be my first 2 guests on the video edition. And then we're just going to go from there. Bye, guys.
Thanks for listening to Smart Brown Voices with your host, Mr. Mike Street. If you like what you just heard, we hope you'll leave a review on iTunes and tell your friends and colleagues. Be sure to check out our archive section on our website for previous podcasts and make sure to follow us on social media. This has been a Mr. Mike Street production. Join us next time for another edition of Smart Brown Voices and be inspired.
You don't waste your time. He's like, because I'm back alone. If you feel like a movement out of roof, back alone. If you feel like happiness is a truth, clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel like that's what you came to do. Give me get me down, your love is too high to get me down. Ain't nothing, get me down, your love is too high to get me down. Ain't nothing, get me down, your love is too high to get me down. Ain't nothing, get me down, because I'm back alone. If you feel like a moving out of roof, back alone. If you feel like happiness is a truth. Clap along if you know what happiness is to you. Clap along if you feel like that's what you came to do. Get me down, get me down. Your love is too high to get me down. Ain't nothing, get me down. Your love is too high to get me down. Ain't nothing, get me down. Your love is too high to get me down. Ain't nothing, get me. You can't keep running away. Can't keep running away. Can't keep running away. You can't keep running away. You can't keep running away. Yeah, 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 yeah. Running, 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 running away, running. Running away, running, running, running away, running. Can't keep running away. Yeah. Cool babies, I see y'all dancing. Y'all getting loose now.